Emily Sanders and Ryan Caldwell seemed like the perfect couple on the outside. She, a kind-hearted nurse, he, a respected Florida police officer. But behind closed doors, their relationship hid a chilling darkness, a secret that would explode into tragedy and leave a community asking, how well can we really know someone? In the quiet suburbs of Tampa, Florida, Ryan Caldwell appeared to live a life many envied. As a police officer, he was admired for his dedication, his calm demeanor, and his apparent commitment to the community. He patrolled the streets with a sense of authority that commanded respect, and his colleagues often praised him for his professionalism and reliability. On weekends, he was the kind of neighbor who would mow his lawn meticulously, offer to help someone carry groceries, or chat politely with anyone who crossed his path. His life seemed orderly, predictable, and safe, everything a person might hope for in a partner or a friend. At home, Ryan lived with Emily Sanders, a young nurse known for her warm smile and gentle nature. Their relationship had started innocently enough, a meeting through mutual friends, followed by casual dates and long walks along Tampa's bayfront. From the outside, their relationship seemed harmonious. They went out to dinner, attended local events, and shared photos on social media that reflected a happy, loving couple. Friends often commented on how well-matched they appeared, noting that Ryan's protective nature complemented Emily's caring personality. But beneath the surface, subtle tensions were beginning to form, ones that were invisible to outsiders. Ryan's attention, while at first flattering, began to take on a different quality over time. He was meticulous about knowing Emily's whereabouts and who she spent time with. Friends noticed she was less spontaneous, more cautious about her actions and her words. Emily, for her part, often brushed off concerns with a nervous laugh or a casual excuse. She wanted to believe the man she loved would never harm her, that his intensity was a sign of care rather than control. Ryan's dual life was hidden behind an impeccable public image. At the precinct, he was the model officer, punctual, thorough, and committed to justice. He earned commendations for his work and was often described as dependable, someone the community could rely on in a crisis. Neighbors admired him for his friendly greetings and his involvement in local safety programs. In public, there was nothing to hint at the darkness that might lie beneath his calm exterior. Yet those small, private moments, Emily's sudden silences when he entered a room, the way he subtly monitored her interactions, the tiny instances of intimidation disguised as concern hinted at something more sinister. Emily, caught between love and unease, began to notice that the man she trusted most could provoke fear as easily as he could provide comfort. She recorded fleeting moments of tension in a private journal, noting arguments that seemed minor but left a lingering sense of dread, and moments when Ryan's charm shifted suddenly into cold detachment. She did not fully understand these feelings, convincing herself that she was overreacting, that relationships sometimes had difficult moments. But deep down, she sensed an underlying pattern of control that she could not ignore. Life continued its outwardly normal rhythm, with Emily going to work at the hospital and Ryan fulfilling his duties at the police department. To everyone else, the couple maintained the image of happiness and stability. Yet inside the walls of their shared apartment, unease began to grow. Ryan's carefully constructed public persona shielded him from suspicion, allowing his darker tendencies to fester unnoticed. And while the world admired the officer who kept the streets safe, no one saw the private tension building, the quiet fear taking hold, or the darkness that would soon shatter the fragile peace of their lives. As time went on, the cracks in Ryan and Emily's relationship became more pronounced, though they remained largely invisible to the outside world. Emily had begun noticing small but troubling patterns in Ryan's behavior. His charm could shift almost instantly into sharp criticism or cold detachment, leaving her anxious and unsure of what she had done wrong. He often questioned her about trivial things, like where she had been or who she had spoken to, framing it as concern while masking an insistence on control. Emily, who had always been independent and confident, found herself walking on eggshells, careful not to trigger his temper. The person she had once viewed as protective and kind now evoked a quiet tension she could neither explain nor escape. Her friends noticed a change too. Emily, who had always been social and outgoing, started declining invitations and making excuses for why she couldn't attend gatherings. She no longer shared details about her life freely, avoiding conversations that might expose the growing unease in her home. To outsiders, it seemed as though Emily had simply become busier or more reserved, but those who knew her well sensed that something deeper was wrong. The warmth in her voice had dimmed, and her smile seemed measured, almost rehearsed. Ryan, ever vigilant, monitored her interactions subtly, ensuring that he remained the central figure in her world. At the police station, Ryan maintained a flawless image. He was the reliable officer who never missed a shift, handled difficult situations with composure, and earned praise from supervisors. Colleagues saw a man committed to law and order, unaware of the private tension that dominated his personal life. His ability to compartmentalize allowed him to function seamlessly at work while exerting increasing control over Emily at home. The duality of his life was stark: respected public servant by day, increasingly controlling and unpredictable partner by night. Emily began documenting her unease in a journal, an act born out of both fear and a desperate need to make sense of what she was experiencing. She recorded moments of intimidation, episodes where Ryan's anger flared over minor issues, and instances when she felt isolated from friends and family. Writing became her way to reclaim a sense of clarity in a life that was becoming increasingly confusing and threatening. Yet, despite her growing fear, Emily struggled with the conflicting emotions of love and apprehension. She remembered the kind gestures, the affectionate moments, and the public admiration Ryan received. She wanted to believe the man she loved was capable of change, that the tension she felt was temporary or situational, but deep down, a persistent unease lingered. The dynamic between them intensified over the months. Ryan's control became more subtle yet more pervasive, seeping into every aspect of their shared life. He questioned her decisions, monitored her movements, and subtly manipulated situations to reinforce his dominance. Emily's fear grew quietly, often unspoken, leaving her in a constant state of hyper-awareness. She felt trapped, caught between the need for independence and the overwhelming pressure to maintain peace in her relationship. The tension was invisible to neighbors and friends, masked by the outward appearance of a normal, even enviable, couple. Beneath the calm and familiarity of their daily routines, a silent storm was building. Emily's internal alarm grew louder with each passing day, a quiet voice urging her to recognize the danger before it became unavoidable. The walls of their apartment, once a place of comfort, now seemed suffocating. Each small incident, each subtle threat, added to a growing sense of dread that she could neither escape nor fully articulate. The life that had once seemed secure and loving was slowly revealing its darker, more dangerous undercurrent. It was a humid August evening when the fragile tension in Emily and Ryan's life reached a breaking point. The city hummed with the usual sounds of late-night traffic and distant sirens, but inside their apartment, the atmosphere was charged with a silent menace. Emily had spent the evening quietly in the living room, hoping to avoid conflict, while Ryan moved through the apartment with a restless energy, checking his phone repeatedly and making vague references to work that made little sense. The unease she had felt for months now settled into a heavy weight pressing against her chest, each subtle gesture and glance from Ryan carrying a threatening undertone. Later that night, Ryan left the apartment under the pretense of a routine patrol. Neighbors would later report seeing him step out alone, his expression unreadable, and return hours later without Emily. When she did not answer her phone, he told co-workers and friends that she had gone for a walk and had not returned. Initially, the story seemed plausible. Emily had enjoyed evening strolls, often using them as a way to unwind after long shifts at the hospital. But there were small inconsistencies in Ryan's account, details that didn't align with her usual habits or the timeline of the night. The police launched a search, combing nearby streets, parks, and waterways, but Emily was nowhere to be found. As investigators reviewed security footage from the area, a disturbing picture began to emerge. Cameras captured Ryan leaving the apartment complex late in the evening, returning alone hours later. There was no sign of Emily on the footage, no hint of her intended walk. The disparity between Ryan's story and the evidence quickly raised suspicion. Colleagues who had once trusted him implicitly were now forced to consider the unthinkable. Could Ryan Caldwell, the model officer, be involved in the disappearance of his own girlfriend? Inside the apartment, forensic investigators discovered signs of a struggle. Furniture had been shifted, and subtle traces suggested that Emily had resisted something or someone. The scene contradicted Ryan's version of events, raising more questions than it answered. As the investigation deepened, detectives began piecing together a timeline that hinted at a night far more sinister than anyone had anticipated. Each new discovery chipped away at the carefully maintained image Ryan had presented to the world, exposing a private life filled with tension, fear, and hidden threats. The community was stunned. Ryan had been a respected figure, a man seen as a protector and a role model. The idea that he could be connected to Emily's disappearance seemed impossible to many. Friends and neighbors struggled to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the chilling evidence that was beginning to surface. Meanwhile, Emily's family was left grappling with uncertainty, clinging to hope while fearing the worst. The investigation revealed a growing pattern of control and manipulation in Ryan's behavior, a side of him that had been carefully concealed from everyone except Emily. As the search continued, the pieces of the night slowly began to fall into place. The careful alibis, the casual explanations, and the confident demeanor all began to unravel under scrutiny. Ryan's public persona, once a shield against suspicion, could no longer protect him from the growing scrutiny of investigators and the relentless pursuit of truth. What had started as a routine disappearance was now shaping into a complex and disturbing case, revealing the dangerous duality of a man whose outward respectability masked a hidden darkness. The night that Emily vanished would mark the beginning of a chilling unraveling, one that would expose secrets no one could have imagined. The investigation into Emily's disappearance took a decisive turn when detectives began examining Ryan's digital footprint. What had once seemed like minor inconsistencies quickly evolved into a disturbing trail of evidence. Deleted messages, hidden emails, and searches on his phone revealed a preoccupation with control and monitoring Emily that went far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Investigators discovered that he had meticulously concealed communications, sometimes hours after sending them, and had researched methods to manipulate and intimidate. Each new discovery painted a portrait of a man who had gone to extraordinary lengths to maintain dominance over his partner, while simultaneously preserving a flawless public image. Emily's private journal became another critical piece of the puzzle. Investigators found pages filled with accounts of fear, confusion, and escalating anxiety. She had documented incidents that, at first glance, seemed minor offhand comments that felt threatening, moments of sudden anger, and subtle attempts to isolate her from friends and family. Reading her words revealed a pattern of manipulation and control that, in hindsight, seemed impossible to ignore. Emily's entries described nights filled with tension, mornings spent trying to avoid conflict, and an overarching sense of unease that had grown steadily over the course of her relationship with Ryan. The journal made it clear that she had lived in a constant state of apprehension, a reality that had been invisible to the world outside their apartment. Forensic evidence soon began to support the growing story. Investigators found signs of a struggle in the apartment that matched Emily's documented experiences. Small but telling clues moved furniture, scratches, and marks that showed forced movement proved that what happened that night was not an accident. The order of the evidence suggested planning and intent, pointing to a deliberate act. Ryan's explanations of the scene began to fall apart as physical proof contradicted his story, exposing the false version he had shared with friends, co-workers, and police. As more details surfaced, investigators saw a clearer picture of Ryan's behavior. He had shown a pattern of control over those close to him, hiding his darker side behind an image of honesty and dependability. The very traits that people once admired, his precision, discipline, and commitment, were also tools he used to manipulate others in private. Every word, every action had built a pattern of control that eventually led to the tragedy surrounding Emily's death. The truth shocked the community and everyone who thought they knew him. How could someone so respected and trustworthy act with such cruelty behind closed doors? The contrast was striking: a dependable officer by day, a controlling and dangerous man by night. Each new discovery reminded people that appearances can deceive and that danger can hide behind familiar faces. What began as a missing person case became something much darker, a search for truth that revealed the tragic reality hidden beneath Ryan's perfect image. When Ryan Caldwell was arrested, it marked a turning point in a case that had filled the community with fear and disbelief. Charged with second-degree murder, he was taken into custody as his spotless reputation collapsed. The courtroom became the setting where Emily's final moments were revealed, destroying the public image Ryan had built. Prosecutors presented digital evidence, forensic findings, and Emily's own journal to create a clear timeline showing a pattern of control, manipulation, and violence. Witnesses told the court how Ryan had quietly controlled Emily, often pretending his actions came from care or concern. Friends and family described her fear, distance, and anxiety, giving insight into the emotional abuse that others had missed. His co-workers, still stunned, were asked to face the truth that the officer they trusted had been capable of terrible harm. The contrast between his public and private life was deeply disturbing, leaving the community confused and heartbroken. Evidence shown in court made Ryan's double life impossible to deny. Deleted messages, hidden records, security footage, and forensic details from the apartment came together to prove that Emily's death was no accident but a planned act. Every piece of evidence revealed how Ryan had built and maintained a false image while secretly controlling and hurting Emily. The courtroom grew tense as the full story unfolded, exposing the level of deception behind his actions. Emily's family, though heartbroken, found some comfort in seeing justice pursued. Their pain was immense, made worse by the fact that the person responsible had once been trusted and respected. They attended every hearing, determined that the truth of Emily's life and death would be known. The trial showed how dangerous hidden abuse can be, especially when the abuser holds power and appears respectable. As the trial went on, it became clear that Ryan's reputation could not protect him from the truth. The evidence and testimony were too strong. The case became more than a local tragedy. It was a lesson about how easily appearances can hide reality. Emily's story became a warning about trust, control, and the unseen struggles many people face. By the end of the trial, justice was served and a powerful truth was revealed. Control and secrecy can destroy lives, and only by facing the truth can real justice be achieved.